my sister, my parents, and my mom, obviously, also her husband, Jim. And it is without further ado that I introduce one of the most beautiful people with fabulous consciousness, Kathleen.
Thank you. Yeah, you might want to put that down there. I have gone to many a party with the Matthews. And we won't even talk about that in our talk.
No.
And thank you, Nick, because the class that we're teaching, a lot of them are out of town, and they would be very upset if this was not taped. So thank you so much. It's always just a pleasure to speak to all of you and to see all your smiling faces out there. Tim is in Dallas. He was at the CSL church in Dallas, and they had a ministers' gathering. And then after the ministers' gathering, he had the joy of spending some time with his little granddaughter. So we will see him next week. And our talk title today is God's Bounty. And I would be remiss if I didn't say we've added to God's bounty in our family, because the night of the gala, we had our first little great-granddaughter, Kate Marie. So she helped celebrate the gala. This is a wonderful time of the year to have God's bounty as a title, because as we look around us, the beauty that we see right now is beyond description. And Sheila and I got a little mixed up with our pictures and things that are supposed to be up there, so just visualize them.
It's a good thing.
And wasn't her fault, wasn't my fault, it just didn't happen. And so we're going to start out with a picture of Dr. Holmes. And with it was a quote. And this is what it had to say. Great things are done by people who think great thoughts and then go out into the world to make their dreams come true. And you are those great people. Now, this philosophy that we follow is an incredibly empowering teaching. However, it's not always an easy one. And especially if you're working on something where you need to step up and change your thinking. And this change usually is surrounded by experiences from the past. And we know in our minds that the past is just that, the past. And the future is our dream. And that the only place that we can ever make progress is in the now. We need to become conscious of the creativity of our minds. How each and every thought, either positive or negative, becomes our life. Awareness is our state of mind, and everything is energy, everything. And you get to choose what your energy is going to be. So what dream are you taking out into the world? Tom Costa, who founded the Palm Springs Center for Spiritual Living, was one of our older ministers, and just this dapper, probably 5'2", and you can't imagine how he dressed. He was just a joy to be around. And this was one of his quotes that I wrote down from a sleep alarm many years ago. And this was, our philosophy is a living concept. And if you don't live it, you must not believe it. Now, he would just say it like it was. Because if we are listening and we are going to classes and we know what it is that we are to do, and if we do it, our life becomes better, then it seems to me that it only makes sense to live it. And this is the teaching we have to work on consciously and consistently. One year, we were on a trip and we stopped in a little antique store. And at the back of that store, I found this little book, paid 97 cents for it. And it's called Creative Mind, and it was written by Dr. Holmes, and the copyright is 1919.
Wow.
In the back, they had some questions and answers, and I just chose a couple of them. And they were asking, because most of his talks, Dr. Holmes' talks, came from meetings just like this, except there would be 1,000 people there. And then he would ask questions, or they would, ask questions of him. And so the question is all of man's thought creative? And his answer was, yes, all or none. If one thought produces, then all thoughts must produce. And then the other one, what is the limit of man's creative use of mind? And his answer is, man is limited by nothing but his own thinking, by his mental ability to conceive. And in the middle of this book, oops, I feel like I'm going to blow up.
We won't let that go.
In the middle of this book was a typewritten, you can see it's quite old, how to give a spiritual treatment, and down here, Ernest Holmes had signed it. So this is all the ways to give a spiritual mind treatment, and he starts by take definite time, at least twice each day, to be alone. Sit down, compose your mind, and think about God. Try to arrive at a deep sense of peace and calm. Then assume an attitude of faith in a power greater than you are. And that is my very, very, very favorite way to start a treatment. There is a power in the universe that is greater than you are, and you can use it. And Jesus also said that in different words, but he said, greater things than these will ye do. So it all comes from our conscious thinking. We are God's bounty, each and every one of us. How we use our consciousness is God's bounty. And we find that in many different ways. And I love the story that Maya Angelou tells, and I've got to take off these glasses and put on these glasses because it's very tiny right. She said, there was a time when I was in a state of utter despair, immersed in guilt over promises made on which I had not delivered. I went to my vocal coach, Fred Wilkerson, weeping copiously. He asked what was the matter. I responded, I'm going crazy. I'm almost at the brink of suicide. And then he offered me a legal-sized yellow line pad and paper. And he said, write down your blessings. Furious that he didn't understand my condition, I shouted, don't talk nonsense. I'm telling you I'm going crazy. He said, write down that you could hear me say, write down. And think of the millions who cannot hear the cries of their babies, or the sweet words of their beloved, or the alarm that can help them seek safety. Write down that you can see this yellow pad, and think of the millions on this planet who cannot see the smiles of their growing children, or the delight in the faces of their beloved, or the colors of the sunrise and the softness of the twilight. Write down that you know how to write. Write down that you know how to read. Wilkie, as he was known, gave me that lesson in 1955. 55 years later, I have written 31 books, essays, plays, and lyrics for songs, all on yellow pads. And I remain in an attitude of gratitude. So there are such simple but profound ways to create God's bounty. We talk a lot in our classes and around about intentions. And
I don't know, okay.
maybe I need to go down here. All right. Just let me know if you can't hear it. Oh, does it sound like you're hearing it? Because I'm not hearing it. Okay. We talk about intentions a lot in our life, and when we set forth without really thinking about them or realizing that we are setting an intention, sometimes we go, oh, that came from an intention I said a long time ago. And then I let it go and I forgot it, but it came forth. Well, Jim and I made our way back to Visalia by an intention. We lived in Reno for 5 years, and anytime something special was going on, we were going over the mountain. And of course, during the Christmas time, you never knew when you could get over Donner Pass, because it was a certain day you could get over and a certain day you couldn't. So that one Christmas we were all packed up, we looked like we were moving, and we were taking presents and food and our dog, and we were headed over the pass for Sacramento, and that usually took us 2 hours to get there. Well, this time it took us 4 hours in a blizzard with cars driving like it wasn't snowing. And so as soon as we hit Roseville, Jim said, oh, look at this beautiful sunshine. Wouldn't it be wonderful to live someplace like this? And I went, why would we live anywhere that our kids weren't? And our kids were here in Visalia. And so after discussing it back and forth for a while, Jim said, with energy, attention, and focused determination, then we're moving back to Visalia by May. And I'm going, oh, well, I was thinking maybe 2 years. Well, guess what? That was a real on the spur of the moment intention. But we bought a house, and thanks to the encouragement and hard work of the Mocks, and we moved into our lovely new home in Visalia by the beginning of April. And I must say, with as little stress as moving again in 5 years can be. that was a very definite intention that had been set. And it moved with grace and ease. And obviously on our part, we knew what we were going to do because we had set that intention. And when you do that, it almost seems like a miracle. But it's something that happens each and every day. We just don't realize it. Now, this was a picture that I had of this poor, pitiful little dog. It had been roaming probably the streets for a year. And it's, well, I'll have to tell you what it is because Clark said I had to show you this piece of paper. It had been our intention to get a dog after we lost our Roman, who was 18 years old, about 6-8 months ago. And we knew that we eventually wanted a dog, and I wanted a smaller dog. And so it was an intention that we had in mind. And here is what I wrote down as my intention. I wanted an older dog. I wanted a dog that didn't shed. I wanted a dog that was 3 to 4 years old. And the kinds of dogs that I wrote down were the Bichon, Yorkshire King, Charles, Poodle, Shih Tzu, Maltipoo, Maltese, Japanese Chin. And I really think that Mitzi is all 3 of them. We haven't figured out what she is yet.
She's all of the above.
All of the above. But she is precious. And when they told us, they said she's in bad shape. You couldn't even see her. She's just one glob of mess. And I just said, we'll take her. Because I knew that that was our intention. And so far it's just, we are just loving every moment with her. And that was truly an intention that had been written down. We knew it was going to take place, we just didn't know when. So intention is very, very powerful when it is done and you set it and you just let it go. It's like treatment. You know, you let it go. And so it really is quite amazing when you live your life through intention, because it's going to be your life anyhow. So you might as well set the intentions that you want, because no matter what our thoughts are, whether they're positive or whether they're negative, whether you're having a good life or a bad life, it all starts in your mind. And you have the power to create the life that you want. And intention is basically this little poem that Zig Ziglar wrote, and Mel Menard had posted it on her website the other day. And it goes like this: life is an echo. What you send out comes back. What you sow, you reap. What you give, you get. What you see in others exists in you. Remember, life is an echo. It always gets back to you. So give goodness. And Jim and I experienced an echo the other day. We had gone to Costco. Oh my, and we had 2 carts. We got a lot. And we came out and we put everything in the car. We came home and I had bought Jim a pair of slippers. And I said, "Where are your slippers?" Oh, we looked everywhere and it was on bill, so we knew we bought them. He's all, I'll go back and find them. And so he went back, and whoever he talked to, the gal said, oh, you left them in your cart, and someone brought them in and gave them to me to give to you when you came back in. So, you know, that was an echo. That would be how we would have treated someone else, and it was given right back to us. And that was just a beautiful way of the universe saying thank you. Now, some people write out bucket lists. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I started an intention list? I've had a dream box before that I did through the law of attraction with Jerry and Esther. And I would put in it the things, which is basically an intention, a dream. I would put in there the things that I would love to enter my experience. And when we moved, I still had that, and I looked through it, and I was going, oh my goodness. I can't even remember what the one thing was. Everything in there I had in my life. So try it. It's fun. Just start an intention list. Don't even, give it any attention after you put it in there. See what happens. It is great fun. As I look around, all of you are part of God's bounty. When I look outside and see the beauty of the world, that's part of God's bounty. Our wonderful little animals are God's bounty. It is all around us. And you can create this bounty for our world. And I would like to end this with a bit of inspiration that I found on Facebook. If you would like to close your eyes, doesn't make any difference, just take this in and make it your pledge for creating God's bounty in our world. While much of America seems to be getting more and more divisive, I'm going to be holding doors for strangers, letting people in front of me in traffic, greeting all I meet, exercising patience with others, and smiling at strangers. I'll do this as often as I have the opportunity. I will not stand idly by and let children live in a world where unconditional love is invisible and being rude is acceptable. Join me in showing love and respect to others. Find your way to swing the pendulum in the direction of love. Love must begin somewhere, and love will overcome hate. Imagine the difference if we each purposefully love a little more and are all of God's bounty. And so it is. So it is.
Furniture moving there. I'm inviting the ushers to come forward, and before I do that, we have another wonderful song from Simone. So before she starts, you are going to help me read the prosperity affirmation.
Except I can't.
Yes, it is.
Never.
It's in her.
Oh, well. So, just because the order of service isn't in here does not mean The prosperity affirmations. Oh. Offering affirmation, here we go. I freely and joyously give from the abundance and fullness of my overflowing wealth, knowing my gift goes with love as it touches and blesses the world, and so it is. And now another lovely song from Simone.